There is a reason why I have to be talked into camping every time it comes up in conversation with either friends or family. I don't mind the outdoors and I don't mind nature. I just feel like I want to sleep in bed and not on the ground in a tent. On this specific year, my boyfriend talked me into going camping, but this time, we would be staying in a cabin so I can sleep in a bed. I still voted for the ocean, but at least I was actually going to be sleeping in a bed. The trip consisted of me and my boyfriend and 2 other couples. The 6 of us found a nice cabin in the woods that was mostly secluded and was only about a 100-yard walk to this beautiful lake that we could swim in. I didn't want to admit it, but I was actually feeling this trip quite a bit, especially once we got there. The first day was amazing. We spent all day walking some trails, swimming in the lake, and in the early evening we decided to cook up some steaks on the grill, and it was a great first day. That night, we all went inside and went to bed at around midnight, if I had to guess. I didn't sleep very well. I thought that I could hear something outside all night, but I just chalked it up to my imagination. After all, we were in the woods, so hearing strange noises all night long is not that weird. The next morning, we were all outside getting ready for a nice hike when we heard this jolly voice shout from behind us. "Why, hello there! How are y'all doing today?" My boyfriend, being the always social butterfly that he is, started talking to the guy right away. He told us his name was Wayne and that he was an expert in all the trails around here. And the whole interaction was just slightly strange, but I suppose not alarming. He said he lived nearby and that he was hiking some trails and he heard us talking and he just wanted to make sure that we were settling in okay. I remember thinking it was sweet of him to check in with us. He was a bigger guy, I would say well over 6 feet tall, and he had a pretty big gut. He had a backpack on with hiking boots and jeans, so he really didn't look like anything other than a typical hiking local. We thanked him, and he laughed in this jolly voice, and he went on his way. As we hiked, we laughed about Wayne for a little while. When the afternoon came, we all decided to go to the lake to swim for a few hours before heading back to the cabin. When we got down to the lake, we were sitting on the dock soaking up the sun, and from beyond the trees, we heard that voice again. "There they are!" We all jumped back because honestly it scared us, because now standing at the edge of the dock was Wayne again. We asked what he was doing, and again he claimed that he was just wandering by and happened to see all of us out there. My boyfriend laughed it off and talked with him for a little while, but my friend Tina's boyfriend and I felt uneasy about this. The entire time they were talking, Wayne just nodded, laughed, and kept looking around. After they finished their conversation, he kept mumbling, "okay," under his breath and then walked away. It was weird, but not really scary, at least not yet. That night, as we were all sitting around the campfire sharing scary stories, I felt even more uncomfortable for some reason. Suddenly, Wayne jumped out of the bushes without warning and yelled in this sort of joking voice, "Here I am!" followed by a loud and excited laugh. We all jumped out of our skin, even worse than at the docks. At this point, my boyfriend was upset and kind of yelled at Wayne, telling him to just leave us alone and go back home. He explained that scaring us like that wasn't cool, and Wayne was lucky none of us retaliated out of instinct. Wayne looked upset and claimed that he was just trying to help us have some memorable experiences on our trip. He left on one of the trails, I guess, and he seemed to look pretty visibly upset. I almost felt sorry for him until I realized that it was after 11, and there was no good reason for him to be wandering around our camp. The experience put a damper on the rest of the night, and we ended up calling it a night not long after that. We went inside and cleaned up the place since we were supposed to be leaving early in the morning. Once in bed, I told my boyfriend that I wasn't feeling great about this whole Wayne situation. I had a bad feeling that he would somehow come out again. I couldn't stop thinking that that weird noise that I heard the night before might actually be from this goofball. That night, I was wide awake again. I'm not sure of the time, but at some point during the night, I could distinctly hear breathing and footsteps outside the window. I woke up my boyfriend and begged him to check for me. He was annoyed at first, but then changed his tone instantly. I saw him look out, and his skin turned white as a ghost. And he whispered to me that he could see someone outside the cabin, pacing back and forth, and he thinks it's Wayne. I went to the window and tried not to draw any attention to us. What appeared to be Wayne seemed to be arguing with himself, talking but almost incoherently. He attempted to open the locked door, and when he couldn't, he started pounding his head as if upset with himself. And after pacing for a few more minutes, he seemed to just disappear back into the woods. We were horrified and didn't know what to do. My boyfriend called the owner of the cabin and informed him that we were also calling the police. A cop car showed up a few minutes later, and we explained the entire day's events to the officer, including Wayne's appearance. The cop didn't seem too bothered and just simply nodded along. It felt like he was just sort of listening for the sake of listening and didn't grasp the potential severity of the situation. We packed up our stuff, made some coffee, and just stayed awake until dawn. And once the sun was rising, we loaded up the van and headed home. Once we got to the main road, we saw Wayne walking by himself. He still seemed to be just sort of mumbling to himself, hitting his head from time to time. We called the dispatcher and told them that we had just seen Wayne, who had been trying to break into our house earlier, walking on the road, and that was the end of it on our side. I'm not sure if the cops ever eventually picked him up, or if he just fled back into the woods. I wonder if he really does live nearby, or if he was just some strange man wandering around, hoping to cause harm. I'm happy nothing physically happened to us, but from now on, they all can go camping without me. If you enjoyed this scary story, listen to thousands more, either over on the Let's Read YouTube channel or podcast.